seasonal outlet for this fire season. So Brad, the mic is all yours.
All right. Thanks, Charlie. Appreciate it. Trying to figure out which screen I want to share here. So let's try that. Thanks for having me. My name is Brad Petruska. I am the Fuels Program Manager for the San Juan National Forest. My job is primarily prescribed fire, things of that nature. I'm also the primary IC for the San Juan National Forest Type 3 team. And yeah, a bunch of other things that involve, looking at antecedent conditions, looking out in outlooks, and this is right in my wheelhouse. So without further ado, I think you should know where we're headed by now. These have been out for a while, but let's just click through a few things and then open it up for some questions. So 2020, yeah, it was a bad year in a number of ways, right? But also like our precipitation, the evaporative demand that was out there, it was terrible. We were about a foot behind in moisture in mountain level precip. That's entirely thanks to the monsoon just utterly failing. As we entered winter, we were in a D4 exceptional drought. That's the highest level of drought that's recorded on the US Drought Monitor. It's really rare in the long term. It happened in, well, I want to say 2018, not 19, right? We entered the winter of 2018, 19 in that situation, and it changed a lot over the winter. Our winter was not the same as it was in 2019. So we're really facing a ton of moisture deficits. Here's just kind of a scatter plot of precipitation versus daily temperature. We had not quite the hottest year on average last year, but certainly the driest. So, outpaced by 2012 of all years, really 2002 is right up there. You see all these big fire years there. When you look at, some NFDRS fire danger rating indices, 2020 was actually it had more potential for fire than 2018 did. So we got really lucky last year. Hopefully we can do that again, but maybe not. If you look at the past 2 years, we're really missing still over a foot of moisture at the mountaintop level. That is further behind than we were in 2001, 2002, 2012, 13, or 2017 and 18. And those are all pretty big fire years locally, especially on the forest. So that's why I'm highlighting those three. So we are below those three right now. Here's what our snowpack's looking like. If you just look at the basin as a whole, it's not telling the whole picture. The eastern San Juans fared a little bit better than the central and western did this year. Overall, we're tracking very similar to 2013. Snow's about entirely melted off the snowtail sites, despite there still being some on the peaks. Precipitation in that red shade on your bottom right-hand graph is in the lowest 10th percentile. So we're in the 6th percentile for that. 2002 and 18 were the only years that were drier since 87. But again, that's averaging all of our basins. So these charts are a little dated, but it tells the same story, right? The upper San Juan, it's not actually in the 10th percentile, it's in the 25th to 50th roughly. So they're doing okay over in Pagosa. I shouldn't say okay, they're significantly below normal. They're just not as below normal as the Animas and Dolores and Mancos basins are right now. So really not much improvement at all in the drought. These are stream flow to date. Not really to date. This was, I want to say sometime in early May. So these charts weren't updated, but this just shows the cumulative amount of water that's flowed through a lot of these stream gauge stations that we've had. The one that stands out the most is the top left. The Mancos River near Toyac hasn't had a single drop of water flow through it since October 1st. So that should key in on the severity. And that one, it's regulated. There's upstream reservoirs and things of that nature, but the fact that nothing has run off into it is kind of alarming. That hasn't happened. And it's telling the same story, west to east, worst to best relatively for the drought. So what's the outlooks? Warm and dry. Unfortunately, that seems to be the theme of things. The interesting thing, these were built on updated climate normals. So this incorporates the period from 1991 to 2010. Since we spilled over to 2021, these actually reflect an even warmer and drier climate than what we would have looked at last year. So even in relation to that, we're still looking at warmer and drier relatively to climate averages. So as we enter what is the driest month of our year climatologically, which is June, just not a lot of great news in this. It did rain a little bit, not much. So this is kind of a past 2 weeks, this upper right one, how much it did rain over the past 2 weeks. And most of that green in the San Luis Valley is from today and yesterday. They got a decent shot of moisture. And then when you look at how much normally it would have rained in that time frame, we're pretty consistently in between the 0 and 10th percentile. So very, very low accumulated moisture. Just a little more, here's the past 60 days, how much it has rained across the area or snowed, things of that nature. You know, the mountains 2 to 4 inches isn't, you would think that isn't terrible, but compared to normal, that's 50 to 75% of normal. So the mountains did okay in the spring. The thing is, it was still warmer than average over the whole time frame. Just a little bit about kind of how we on the federal side of things and state and local make a lot of decisions is off of fire danger rating. So we're updating this plan. There's some new tools that are available to us. This is a little snapshot of what our energy release component in these two pretty distinct areas, our lower and upper elevation areas, look like year to date. So in our lower elevation, basically south of 160, if you're in La Plata County down to the Buck Highway, basically, that is what we call our lower. That's reflected really well by this chart on top, fuel model X, which is brush. You can see that red line is going above the black one a lot. That means it's setting new maximums for dryness on any given day. They haven't had a ton of fires year to date, most notably the one outside of Cortez a few weeks ago, about 130 acres. But this does a pretty good job showing that pre-green up potential you can have. So we're in a time of year where the grasses are starting to green up, and that reduces our fire danger. We are seeing some green up out there. It's probably going to be pretty short-lived, and so once we hit another week from now, you can expect this line to pretty steadily be climbing back up. In our upper elevations, that's the chart on the lower right. We've been setting record maximums in the mid part of May. So we were even drier than we were in 2018. And, that's captured fairly well in here. This big dip that we have here really isn't a factor of moisture. It's just that it got pretty humid out today. So it was overcast and humid. Those sort of things do damp down fire danger. It's really short-lived, but we'll take it for sure. But the trends in both of these areas are pretty similar, right? Just way up near the top level of it. So expect that to continue as we go through the year. It's not really a season outlook, but we talk about fire season length and things like that. I did a little digging, and yeah, they are a little longer locally, about an extra 11 days when you compare 2000 to 2010 to 2011 to 2020. It's about 11 days longer now. Where we are, drought's a really easy indicator to key into for fire season severity. So if you're starting summer off in a drought, odds are good you're going to have above average. If you're not, it's going to be a pretty normal onset to fire season, and then you're just waiting on the monsoon to see what's happening. We see this trend too with seasons becoming more severe when we compare decades with energy release component and that sort of stuff. A big factor in season ending dates and severity and stuff like that since 2010 is the past 4 years we've kind of had below average monsoons. So here's hoping for at least an average one. Above average would be fantastic. We've got huge moisture deficits out there. And that kind of brings it to the wrap up. I don't think this should be surprising given everything I've been through, but red is above normal potential for significant wildland fire activity. Starting the latter half of this month, which we're in right now, going through June, and then there's not any indications that the monsoon will be below normal, but the past 4 years might have proved us that normal might be changing. So we are expecting an above average fire season this year. I've got some, scenarios out there. Worst case would be that we have something going like right now or in a week or so, where climatologically there is no relief that's going to come until your monsoon sets up. We're not there yet, so that's great. Most likely, we're still going to have some large fires around here, and could go longer depending on how strong that monsoon is. So that's really the great big overview of this. I start making these in early April, and as we get closer to June, unless things change dramatically, don't really update them that much. And this year's just been pretty obvious since April that or even earlier, this is the way we're going. If there's any questions, I'd love to take them right now.
Brad?
Yeah.
Hey, what about stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 fire restrictions? Anything going to happen coming up near future?
Yeah, we're definitely talking about it. We try to calibrate let me go back up a few slides if I can, if that's even going to let me do it. So we use this kind of stuff. We use this fire danger rating to inform that. So this is energy release component. This is how dry things are, but it doesn't incorporate wind. There's another index we use called burning index that incorporates the influence of wind. The nice thing with these new fuel models is that drought is incorporated into them. And then we're really only looking at what's the workload on dispatch right now? Is it a high workload? Are they supporting type 1, 2, or 3 fires? Are there resource shortages? Right now, we're not hitting that criteria. But yeah, it's coming sooner than later. This little dip might prolong it a little bit. I would fully expect by June 1, you're looking at some form of fire restrictions being recommended. If it was going to be this really dry, static condition, we'd be in them already, but our weather has cooperated a little bit, and even this bit of overcast is helpful to us.
Thank you.
Yep.
Brad, I wondered if there's any chance, I know these slides are fabulous and a real learning tool, but is there any chance of possibly being able to share a couple of these with our HOAs? Might be a good learning tool for them.
Yeah, I will. I'll just drop this presentation in the chat box, and then I think you guys can all download it if you want to.
That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Yep. Well, I might have to mail them to Charlie, but I'll make sure you get them because it's not letting me load it directly.
Yeah, if you send them over my way, I can make sure to distribute them. So if anybody is interested in seeing or having a copy of this presentation, then feel free to shoot me an email and I will forward it to you.
Yeah.
Did anybody else have any other questions? Perfect. Well, thank you, Brad, for taking the time to share with our group and provide these slides to us. It's definitely very enlightening, and we appreciate your time. And I know you probably have to jump off here for something else, but thank you for the time.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Have a good one.
You too. Try to stop
Thanks.
sharing here. There you go.
All right. So I'm going to jump over to some announcements quickly, and then we'll have some opportunity for people to share some of the activities that they did for Wildfire Prep Day. The first announcement is chipper rental rebate is still open, and we still have funding for that. So if you know of anybody who is interested in pursuing that chipper program, they can go on our website, wildfireadapted.org, and under the programs tab, there is a link to information about that and the application for that. We also have site visits open at this point. And I know in La Plata County, we're getting a little bit backed up, but not too far. So if anybody in your areas are interested in having a site visit done on the property, also under the programs tab, they can sign up on the online form. That's usually going to be better than calling one of us or emailing, just because we're spending a lot of the times these days outside of cell service. So that sign up form is the best way for people to sign up for that. We do still have funding for our defensible space cost share programs in Rafter J, Edgemont, and that's Edgemont Highlands, Edgemont Ranch, and Edgemont Meadows, PLPOA over in Archuleta County. And then I believe it's along the 184 corridor in Archuleta County as well. So if you know of anybody who lives in those areas, feel free to share the information about our programs with them. And the best way is to get in touch with us about that is to sign up on that same site visit form, and then we can move forward with that. Another thing that we have going on is this Thursday, we have a 1-hour home ignition zone course specifically for realtors. So if any of you guys are realtors, or if you have any friends that are realtors, then feel free to pass on the information about this course to them. It will be Thursday the 20th from 10 to 11 a.m. And they do receive 1 hour of continuing education credits for realtors. We also have another 1-hour home ignition zone workshop on Monday the 24th from 12 to 1. And that is designed more for just anybody in a community, any of you guys, if you're interested. So I believe Ashley just dropped information about those into the chat box. So feel free to open that up and sign up there. Does anybody have any questions about any of the announcements or programs that we have going on? Perfect. All right. So I had one person reach out about wanting to share some information about their Community Wildfire Preparedness Day event. And so I believe we have Anne and Julie on the call. Would either of you guys like to share about the Forest Lakes event?
Anne, do you want to take this one?
Okay, I'm working with another computer. Anyways, Julie got us started with applying for the $500 grant that we got mid-March. So then I started early getting my drivers lined up and high school kids to help, because we geared our program towards people that didn't have the ability with a truck or a trailer to haul their slash down to our brush pile that the Metro provides for us. So we ended up with I think 26 people that got on the list that qualified. And then I divided them up among my drivers. If I ever did this again, I would go the route, because some got more than the others. But anyways, one mother came to meet us and she said, my younger son is sick, but I'm here to take his place. And she had on her boots and her gloves. And she worked with those kids for 4 hours, because like the one driver that did keep track of what he had 91 bags of pine needles, 8 loads of slash, and someone didn't read or didn't bother to do it. They did not bag their pine needles, and it took him 5 truckloads to get that down to our brush pile. But the last 2, I had him work with 2 kids, but they must have emptied over close to 200 bags, because the plastic ones won't go through the burner. So we ended up with about a total hours of 76 hours. And between all of the drivers and stuff was 160 miles here in our roads. So it was very successful. I met a lot of the people that were just doing it on their own, because we had a sign out at the tractor dressed as a fireman to encourage everybody just to get their stuff done. And then we had a refreshment booth set up. We had cold drinks, assorted chips. I made chocolate chip cookies, oatmeal craze and cookies, and then we had fruit for them. And I talked with all the drivers that came in and thanked them for doing it. And they were very thankful that we were doing something like this. And it was 99%, I think, pine needles that people brought down. So it was a good project. So anyways, if we ever do it again, there's always a few changes you'd make, but it was very, very successful. And thanks to Julie for getting out some of the emails, and I had another gal that did emails.
Great, thanks, Anne. Julie, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that? I think Charlie's having some computer issues, so I think he might have dropped off.
No, I thought it was overall a really successful event. Definitely would encourage anyone, if they're interested, to pursue that grant money if they do it next year. It was super easy to get. Check came in the mail. They gave us a big, long banner that we put down by the garbage dumpsters here in the subdivision to announce it too. So it was a good event.
Great. Had Forest Lakes got the State Farm funding before in the past, or was this the first time?
I believe it's the first time.
Great. Great. I'm glad to hear it went so well. Okay, Lynn, it looks like you want to share as well.
Yep, I live in Trappers Crossing in La Plata County. And we haven't done anything like this before, but we also applied for the grant. And this was the second time we've gotten it. And so didn't know how it would go. And we kind of focused ours on roadsides, where we have had our roadsides, especially to going to the higher lots that have been evaluated and have been told that they are not passable by fire trucks. And that was where we focused our energy. So put out some emails to neighbors that, first of all, our neighbors own the roadsides. Their property lines come right up to the edge of the road. And would you like to volunteer your property to have your roadsides cleaned up? And also to everybody that lives in the neighborhood, would you like to volunteer and help us do this work? So we started at 9 in the morning. We had 3 different teams. The really neat thing was that people from the county stepped in to help us. And that was Scott Nielsen from Durango Fire, then Shauna Lagarza and Rob Farino from Emergency Management with La Plata County, and they're all experienced wildland firefighters. So they joined us with about, I guess it would be 19 other people in the neighborhood. And we split into 3 teams and went into areas that had been identified as poor roadsides. And then at noon, Charlie came out and we had a barbecue. And so that was, well attended. We had about 25 people for that. And then just did a question answer period with Shauna and Charlie and Scott. And that was how the day ended. And then just this last Friday, we had woodchuck come out and chop up everything. And there is a lot. And so that cost will be divided amongst the homeowners. And then, they'll pay for that chipping, but they're very grateful to have the actual labor provided to get the roadsides cleaned up that go up to their homes.
Fantastic. That's great.
Yeah, John Camacho, I know he's on today. He was one of our team leaders. Do you have anything to add to that, John?
Not too much. So what we concentrated on was the all oak brush on the sides of the road that also was on a blind turn. And so it opened up the visibility on the blind turn. And we did both sides of the road. And so that way, 2 fire trucks passing, 2 homeowners passing, what have you, at least they can see each other if there's no fires going on at that particular point. But getting the brush off the road at least 10 feet, which really needs to be a little bit more probably in some places. But that was it was a really great day. And then meet Shauna and Scott and Rob and some of the others. So
we'll do it again next year for sure.
Great.
yes.
Good momentum. Do any other communities have any other ones that they want to share, or plans for the summer as well? If you guys are planning some projects, anything you're working on right now, does anyone have anything else that they would like to share? Sam.
Yes, hi everybody. I live in the ranch up at Hermosa on 550. Each year we have 2 neighborhood cleanups, one in May and one in October. We just had our May one last week, and we have quite a group of homeowners, at least 10 to 15 people, you know, kind of folks come and go and that sort of thing. And we work on getting material, you know, as far as pruning trees around our homes, pruning bushes. We have an all-out attack going on juniper bushes in our neighborhood. And when it was established 30 years ago, somebody just went crazy putting juniper bushes everywhere against houses, along roads, all kinds of places. So we're really making some headway on that. We pile all this material along the roads in our neighborhood, and then we have woodchuck come in and chip it all up and haul it away. So I think we have a really successful event. Again, it ended up playing out over about a 2-week period, and then we had woodchuck all of one day chipping and hauling away. It's never ending, Ashley.
It isn't. We know that, don't we? So true. Anyone else at this point? Oh, Roy, I think you're waving there. Oh, I think you're still muted if you.
Okay.
There we
Well, I
go.
did
Yeah.
everything, but finally your thing let me unmute. But yeah, I just wanted to say from the Rogue Ranch, which is off 184 halfway between Mancos and Dolores, I put it out to the 12 lot owners, and we actually have 4 of us are in the process of getting our wildfire mitigation being done with the help of Alex. And it's progress, I guess. That's about it.
Yeah, great, thank you. And I think your community is working on quite a few people getting some defensible space projects done, right? Some cost share projects?
I'm sorry?
Oh, sorry. So you have quite a few people in your community that are going to do some big projects.
Right.
Quite big acres, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, great, thank you. Anyone else at this point? I see, oh, Ruth Ann, I see you waving. There you go.
So we had a emergency egress event a couple weeks ago because, I'm from North Mancos Property Owners Association. There's one way out and one way in, but there's a neighborhood, Shiloh, right across from part of our properties. So one of our residents contacted the property owner, and we have a verbal agreement that we can access their driveway and then exit through, I think it's Mill Creek Road. So if the fire is coming up Road 38.7, we can exit another way. So that was encouraging that now we have another way out.
That's great. Anyone else at this point? Trying to make sure I can see everybody. And Pat, I see you're on there, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe you might be able to provide a quick update on RMRI. I know we had Jason on like last July, I think it was, on that whole process. So I'm not sure if you would want to or willing to give a short update.
Sure, I can give you an update and I can answer some questions. I came on as a homeowner who's doing my thing in my own subdivision. So, which is one of the things, Ashley, you and I talked about with all the great work that you guys are doing. How do we capture that as part of the effort to do 2,000 acres of private land a year through RMRI and make Wildfire Adapted the star of the show and the work that all the homeowners are doing? Because I think the land you all are working on are the most important lands in the county in terms of value, for sure. So we can talk about that at some other point, but if homeowners are interested in keeping track of what their subdivisions are doing, and I'm sure you are tracking it, but let's count it toward what you're trying to do to save your own community and what we're trying to do across the 750,000 acre landscape in Southwest Colorado and get to our 2,000 acres of private land a year. So with that, you know, we're reaching out to folks to try to prioritize the most important places in the county to work that are ready to go to work. And we're closing in on those now. We identified like 5 pods that were the highest priority and 5 pods that aren't quite ready to go. So we have like 5 planning pods. And we're in the process now of trying to ground truth those. And I'll give you a good example. One of the pods, does everyone know what a pod is?
Probably not. Maybe a little explanation on that.
Okay, so what we had to do is we had to break the landscape into smaller chunks, and a pod stands for a what is it? Something operational.
Operational delineation. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's a place that basically they could stop a fire, and keep it from going to another pod. There's a distinct fire management aspect to it. So we broke it into those pods. And one of them that came out really high because it had a real high water value was the one right around McPhee Reservoir. So the interesting thing about that is McPhee Reservoir is really high value, but it's pretty hard to cut trees in the middle of a reservoir. So there's not a lot of work to be done out there. So we're doing things like that to sort of ground truth where we should be working first. And if anybody is interested in getting on the Rocky Mountain Restoration Initiative mailing list, I would be happy to include you. And Ashley, I don't know if you're even getting those emails. You could forward them or, okay. All right.
So, yeah, if anyone is interested, they can email me and I will make sure that they get sent to Pat. Yeah.
So whatever works. But other than that, Ashley, if you have any specific questions or anyone else does, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, I think one thing that would be interesting to note is the process, just maybe a big overview of the process that went into that prioritization because of how we use the collaborative groups. I know that we put input in, maybe in a little bit of explanation of that. So what the goal was to truly, you know, we have such a big area to find those that would most benefit certain areas, whether it be water or wildlife or communities, which is where we really focus. So maybe just a little bit of a background on that, and then we'll see if anyone has any other questions at this point.
Yeah, so like Ashley mentioned, we had to break the landscape down into smaller units in order to prioritize where we should be working. And our MRI from the beginning has been partner driven. We want to hear from the community about what you guys think are the most important, and not only what you guys think, what you know are the most important areas. So we got Ashley involved as an example, and Four Rivers Collaborative involved, and the Dwarf Collaborative involved, and other experts. So, you know, water managers as an example, or recreation leaders, to comment on the areas that had the highest value for 4 values, and that is water, wildlife, communities, which is fire resilient communities, the stuff you all are working on. And the last one is, what am I missing? Wildlife, water, recreation. There we go. And so the interesting thing too, you all should be proud because the first people to respond and the group that had everybody respond were the wildfire adapted communities. So I thought that said a lot about your group and how tight you all are as a community and how you already understand this stuff, right? We're preaching to the choir. But we took that information, everybody not voted, but everybody actually provided input, and they would also provide their comments like, this area is important because Trappers Crossing subdivision is there and there's this many homeowners in that area, and there's BLM, and the BLM already has an environmental impact statement done, so we can go to work there. And then the next step, we broke it down even farther by, where are our biggest opportunities, what pods scored the highest across all 4 values, what's the highest priority for each value, that kind of thing, to get to where we feel fairly comfortable with a good place to start. And none of this is earth-shattering stuff. If you all wrote down on a piece of paper the 5 highest priority areas across the landscape from Durango over, or from Bayfield, say, over to Cortez, you'd pick the exact same spots. But it's good to go through this process, everybody have an input, and then basically affirm what we all already know about where those priorities are in the landscape. So with that, I don't know if I did that any justice, Ashley, and you know as much as I do, so you're, feel free to add anything that I missed.
No, I think that's great. And I think it's a good representation of just the amount of input that went into planning these. And I know that the steering committee is still meeting, but are there certain next steps now, or is it still looking at kind of just the rest of the data and then hopefully having next steps come down the line?
Yeah. So what we're doing right now is we're actually putting more information on those high priority pods about where we might be working. So as an example, some of those pods might be 50,000 acres. There are places to work within those pods that are higher priority than others. So we're trying to identify, and a good example of that might be a pod where one end of it was burned in the Missionary Ridge fire, so there's not much work to be done there, or one end of it is wilderness area and there's not much work to be done there, but another end touches a subdivision, and that subdivision already maybe is working with Wildfire Adapted and has a lot of stuff going on. Let's work on the Forest Service boundary right on the opposite side of the fence. So we're doing that. The steering committee just went from weekly meetings. We've been meeting every week for over a year to monthly meetings, and then doing more work in work groups to actually, put information in those pods profiles and stuff. Ultimately, those pods profiles will come back out to groups like Wildfire Adapted to let you add information. We didn't want you to have to do the heavy lift of adding all the stuff, but we would like you to comment and add some more information. So.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions for Pat on the Rocky Mountain Restoration Initiative efforts in this area? Not at this time. Okay.
Nobody's got questions for me. I just want to thank you all. It was, I live in Pine River Ranches, by the way. And so, I went and bought a chainsaw last summer, and that's about all I did. You guys have inspired me so much. I have my own shaps now and my own chainsaw. But I think the work you all are doing is really inspiring, and sitting in on this call, Ashley, is a huge, I think, tribute or credit to your leadership and the passion that you have within this community that you guys have built. So I'm not just blowing smoke up your skirt to make a fire pun, but you guys are doing incredible work. If there's a way to feature you guys and spotlight you guys, please let me know. We're interested in continuing that relationship.
Great. Yes. And I think just highlighting all the hard work of all the ambassadors that we have is truly inspiring. So yeah, I think that would be great if we could maybe highlight some projects or some good wins. That would be really great storytelling for the organization and the communities. Great. All right. Thanks, Pat. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I appreciate it. Charlie, are you back on? Did you get connected again?
I am. Yeah, I am. I keep getting the notification that my internet is unstable. So if I drop out again, then I apologize for that.
Okay. Any other updates at this point from anyone?
When are we going to meet in person?
Well, actually, that was a question that Charlie and I were discussing when we got on here, is what I think right now would be hard for us to find a place where we could meet inside. Most people aren't allowing it yet, but I didn't know if there was an interest to meet maybe outside in July. I don't know if you guys want to talk now about it, or if you just want to send either of us an email if that is something that you are comfortable with or not comfortable with. But we thought maybe July meeting, the weather could be nice. We could at least meet outside. Sam, you think that's good? Yeah, so maybe that's an opportunity. Or Charlie was also going to think about maybe if there's a possibility of combining it with a part of a tour or something to go see something, another community or some new projects. But we were just talking about that. So I'm not sure if people have hesitations at this point or are ready to finally meet outside and get together. Anybody have any thoughts on that at this point? And you can use a little thumbs up or whatever if you're comfortable, or just feel free to reach out to us. So we'll figure that out. Yeah. And see if there's a chance that we could do that.
I think it might make sense. Ashley, how about we try to, in the next e-news, send out a survey within that e-news with a couple of different options about whether people want to start meeting. Like Ashley mentioned, inside might be a tough thing, just finding a venue at this point that is willing to host a group of 30, 40 people. But we'll start looking into that. And I think if everybody here should receive the e-news. If you don't receive that e-news, please feel free to shoot me an email and I can make sure that you get added to the list. But I think that way we can start at least compiling some data about if everybody is feeling ready to start meeting in person, meet outside, or what everybody is comfortable with, so we can start looking forward to some of those in-person meetings. I know that I've personally been missing the pizza, so I'm sure if you guys are all as well. So hopefully we can get back to that relatively soon.
Great. I think that's a great idea. And I think the next e-news will go out probably next week. So look for that. And I was wondering, Dina, are you still on for BLM? I didn't know if maybe you could just give a quick update on some of that prescribed fire that you guys just finished up. And you're in the...
Yeah. Let me see if can you hear me okay? Mine's unstable too. So
yeah, I can hear you. I didn't see your picture, but we hear you
fine. Yeah, it's not on. Hold on. Difficulties. But anyway, I'm just going to talk. So I was working with the San Juan National Forest on some prescribed burning. We also did some BLM prior to that. So the West Rim, and sorry, I don't remember all the acres that we did. So we started over the West Rim and did a prescribed burn, which would have been east of Dove Creek area on BLM. And then I want to say like the next day or a couple days after that, we went to Hay Camp on the San Juan National Forest. And I think a lot of people saw a lot of smoke on that. And there was rumors that it got away, which it did not at all. So what we do is we have hand lighters that burn the perimeter, and the perimeter is usually a established road or like a 2-track or something like that. And then on that particular one, they brought in the helicopter to light the interior. And so that's where you're getting all that big smoke column that a lot of folks saw in the area. Was everything just working together and burning that oak and limbing up the trees on the ponderosa and stuff like that. And it's all in prescriptions. So the weather, fuel moisture, conditions, smoke, and all that kind of stuff. So that went really well. And then we also did one over in Boggy Draw on Mother's Day, which put up some smoke. I don't think it burned as well as they wanted to, but it definitely was burning within their prescription parameters on that one. So those are some of the prescribed burns. If you saw smoke in the air, that's what that was. And today I went out with Ashley and Charlie and Alex and looked at 4 different places. So that was great, seeing all the great work that you guys have been doing. And it was great meeting some of the ambassadors. And yeah, it was awesome just being out in the field and just seeing all the great work that has been done in the last few years. And it's great to know that the State Farm insurance money, you guys were able to get that. And it's good to hear that that was fairly easy. So good job on all your projects. So I hope I came through okay, voice-wise.
Yeah, you sound great. And Pat, did I know you don't have all the acres, but do you know a guesstimate of all the prescribed fire that you can think of for the last month or so?
Let me take a look and see if I can find that number for you. So,
Thanks.
I don't have it on the top of my head.
Okay, anything else from anyone right now? Or Charlie, did you have any other things that you wanted to discuss? I don't see any.
My agenda or on any of the sticky notes I read around my desk.
Yeah, so I think so we will look for the e-news, and we will include the link to Brad's presentation in the e-news so that you guys can share that with your neighbors as well and in your communities. So we'll make sure to include that and the recording. So that first 20 minutes, if you wanted to show it to your neighbors, you can use that as well. And then we'll also have the kind of poll in there asking about ideas for July's fire council meeting. Hopefully we can find a park and meet in person and figure that out. So if anybody has anything else, let me know. Otherwise, I think we can wrap up just a couple minutes early today. I'll scroll to my other page to make sure I'm not missing someone.
Hey, Ashley, it's Dina again. I can give you the 4 service numbers. So for Hay Camp and one of the units on Boggy Draw. So both of those were 3,131 acres. And I'm gonna say that West Rim, and we did another burn out there. So that's probably, I wanna say maybe about 650 on BLM. So that was closer to Dove Creek area.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that. And I think you said earlier today that there might be another window for some burning, but that's kind of up in the air. Most of it's been done for the springtime that you think.
Yeah, and that would be over in the Dawson area, which is kind of north of Dove Creek, going towards Norwood. So it's kind of in that area where there's, mostly ranchers and stuff like that. So, but I don't know, it seems like it's getting drier pretty quick. So we might not be in prescription for that. And that's like a rotor chop kind of stuff that definitely needs some heat to get it going, to break down all that material.
Great. Great. Thank you very much. Okay, let me do one more scroll. If anyone has anything else they want to share, feel free to unmute yourself. Otherwise, thank you so much to everyone for your time today, and look for next week and some of the updates in the e-news that you can share with your communities. All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ashley and Charlie.
Yeah.
Thank you.